Hello friends and welcome to the Noclip podcast episode 32. We're about to enter silly season here on Noclip after months of work from all of us here. We're going to be putting up our documentary on Arkane. By the time the next episode is up, actually the next episode is a Patron exclusive episode, so by the time the next episode is up 2 weeks from now, who knows what the world will be like? Jeremy Jane?
Yeah, I am really, really excited for so many reasons that I cannot discuss in this podcast, but suffice it to say that this is going to be a really cool one.
Yeah, for sure. Frank has been helping along with the B-roll, a lot of games to capture B-roll gameplay on this one. Sorry, I should say gameplay B-roll. What's been your favorite one to play of all the old Arkane Studios games?
Dark Messiah is so good. I had never played Dark Messiah. Prior to this, Prey is like one of my favorite games, but Dark Messiah is unbelievably fun. Everyone should check it out. It's so cool.
Isn't it like annoying that nobody has done that? Like, I feel like the closest thing we've gotten is like Bulletstorm or something. Actually, I think that came up in one of our interviews, Jeremy. I think somebody mentioned that. Yeah, like just the ability to just the haphazard physicsness, like it just doesn't take itself seriously. Like you have this kick in this game that you can just kick people, and it's like a super kick. It just makes them fly, and it's like a default action. Like, and then there just so happens to be people standing like on the edges of cliffs or like beside a lake or beside some spikes. Like it's so silly.
Hey, when you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Exactly. Yeah, 100% it's that. Yeah, it's that was pretty rad. What did you think of Arx Fatalis?
That was a trip. It was cool. Like it kind of reminded me, the early games kind of reminds me of like Morrowind, like those older Elder Scroll games of just like, this is a kind of a hardcore Western RPG. But there's also like kind of the campy charm of all these games where there's goblins and orcs everywhere, and it's like, okay, I can get into this. Like I like it. It was neat. But then the new feature for me was the spell casting feature that I had to look up like old game facts, like how does this work? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you draw on the screen, right, with your mouse cursor. Yeah. It's funny. This is the second time this has come up in one of our docs, because our documentary on The Witness was basically John Blow saying how Arx Fatalis gave him the inspiration for the sort of big reveal in that game. So it's rad. We're coming like really full circle. Like, I'm starting to feel like we're old heads now, because like actually in this doc, Sebastian Metton at one stage references our Half-Life documentary as well, which is pretty cool. So it's a trip. If you are not following us on Twitter, you probably should be. By the time this goes live, we will have posted. At the moment, I'm doing like every day we're posting, or every day I think I'm posting 2 images from the doc on the games we're covering based on the order of appearance. So yesterday was Arx Fatalis and Dark Messiah. Everyone was talking about kicks. This morning I posted a shot of The Crossing, which people have been like, oh, okay. Like they're starting to get a little, all right, are you going to show that? Is that it? Or are you going to, and in a couple of hours, I'm going to post a screenshot of, I think it will be the first ever gameplay screenshot of LMNO. So that's going to be the next. And I'm just posting them with like the number. I actually fucked up as well. It should be 8 because I counted Dishonored as one game, 1 and 2 or whatever. Because there's so many DLCs. I'll just like put Dishonored in one bucket and Prey in the other. But the one that's going up tomorrow morning is the one that's going to fucking make everyone shit their pants.
Yeah, I haven't felt this excited about one of our doc, like revealing a bit of our doc information that we unveiled since like, I don't know, like it reminds me of the Doom one. Like, yeah. It reminds me of when you and I got the exclusive footage for Doom and we were like freaking out. I remember that was only our second doc as Noclip too. I was so nervous going to the airport. I was like, are there like, is the X-ray scanner safe for like all the hard drives? And like, maybe we could just ask them to like bring it, or like it was all new. And I was so nervous just because that piece of footage was so essential.
Yeah, it was wild. That whole, Like, I think you're right. I think because we often get behind the scenes, nuggets here and there, but this is different. Like, and by the time this podcast goes up, I think the trail will be going up on Friday morning. So if you're watching this on day of release, check out YouTube's channel tomorrow, and or Noclip on YouTube tomorrow, and you'll see what we're talking about. But like, I think what's exciting about this is we often have like slivers, and like there's no sliver about this. Like, sit back, fuckers. we're gonna show you these games, and that will be that, kind of thing. So yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of work still going on in the background. Megan is doing an amazing job right now of like doing double duty on the captions to try and get them as quick as possible. We've had a bunch of people in France helping us with the French annotations for the subtitles. Bethesda are actually helping us again with international subs. So their localization department is going to do a couple of different languages. I think I shouldn't say because I don't know, but like a bunch of different European languages, certainly. So we're trying to get all our ducks in a row. I've pushed it back by one day, so it's going up on Tuesday. I kind of said it would be Monday or Tuesday. So next week it'll be I think that's the 26th. The 26th they'll be going up, and it's long. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's a big one. It's the biggest one. I think it's the best thing we've made.
I'm super excited. I felt like it was going to be one of the best things we made when we were still shooting it. So it's so fun to like, this is the one benefit of the quarantine is I get to separate from you while you edit this, which, like we got used to finally after a few months in the office of kind of seeing each other's works in progress. And now I just get to like experience the doc like most people do.
Yeah, I just showed you guys the trailer, or like an early cut of the trailer. Was there anything that came to mind when you saw that? Like refreshing yourself of like, do you remember being in France?
Yeah. Remember leaving your house? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to talk about without getting into specifics, but just like the magic of a trailer is you get these little blips of like, oh, that's going to be in the doc. Oh, that's going to be in the doc. And it was kind of just like, oh yeah, we talked about that with all these amazing, creative, talented people. Oh yeah, they worked on that and showed us a bunch of it. So
it's in a way I think it's funny because I think people are coming into this expecting a doc on Prey and Dishonored, and they're in it for sure, but like that's not kind of what this is about really. And like there's like in comparison to the amount, because we interviewed like, oh God, I can't even remember, like was it like 7 or 8 people in both studios? Or
yeah, it was a lot.
And so some of them were in French. And so we're going to have like big docs on Prey and Dishonored separately. But so like the bits in this almost feel like piecemeal. Like it was funny going back and seeing just how much we filmed. And you've recorded so much gameplay, Frank, like between Prey and Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2. What did you think of that of the new games? Like, what was your impression of those games? They're kind of hard games, I think, to jump in and play a little bit of because they're so immersive.
Yeah, the coolest thing with playing all the games is seeing what systems are similar and what's new. Like, I mean, every Arkane game seems to have like, there's like the physical, you can smash it or you can do spells. And so, and if for like Prey and Dishonored, it was like now my second time going through them. So it was so interesting to see different avenues of playing. I don't know. It felt really nice to be back in Prey. Seeing Dishonored 2, which I still haven't beat personally, I'm like, now I'm so hooked. I want to play more of these games. But yeah, all their games are really impressive worlds. It's been really cool.
One interesting roundabout, which I don't think you would have necessarily sort of felt. I think it's difficult because there's so much time between the two of them, but also you haven't like played enough of either. Maybe is the fact that like Prey is basically the spiritual successor to Arx Fatalis. Like they are both games that are set in these enclosed dungeons, and the stories, are very malleable based on what you do, or somewhat malleable in Prey, I guess. But they're like immersive dungeon, like basically Arx Fatalis is Ultima Underworld. Prey is System Shock, and those games were, spiritual successors to each other. Like System Shock was essentially the sequel to Ultima Underworld, but it was in space, and that's what Prey is to Arx. So it's like it's wild, like the echoing. What was it? We were on a meeting yesterday, and you said something about some quote about echoing.
Oh yeah. there was like the Ken Burns quote about echoing, where it's like every time. So Ken Burns talks about, like, in his documentary masterclass, he says every time he finishes a project, he looks up at what's currently going on when he's studying history, and something is presently mirroring it. And he says, like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And so every time, so say, like, even doing a Noclip documentary, going back looking at old games, you look around and who's continuing that legacy, and it's like, oh, there's always going to be people carrying it. I mean, even Jonathan Blow with The Witness still doing the spell casting, and it's just I look at, like, the stuff with Noclip, even doing game captures, just going through history. I also kind of like to pretend, like, when I'm trying a new game like Dark Messiah, I try to remember I haven't played any game made after 2005. Like, if this is the first time I'm playing this, it's like, oh, okay. And so now doing game captures for, like, franchises or studios is almost like speed running through history. It's, like, crazy. Yeah. You get to see, like, you get to feel the like monumental increases, like from Dishonored 1 to Dishonored 2. Like, Dishonored 1 is like it's a very pretty game, but when you play Dishonored 2, it's like, oh my god, the world is like 10 times detailed. And I thought Dishonored 1 was awesome. And so now these worlds are just filled with life. And then back with Arx Fatalis, it's just kind of a skinny cave. There's some enemies and little things, and then just each game just gets denser and denser and denser.
I don't want to put you on blast, but you did send me a very funny message, which I completely understand. I completely knew where you were coming from, because I didn't know this either. But at one stage, we're doing back and forth on gameplay capture, and Frank said, oh yeah, I'm playing Arx Fatalis, I'm still in the cave. And I was like, dude, you're always in the cave. Oh. That game takes place in a cave.
I kept I was like expecting, like, okay, this is kind of like Morrowind or Oblivion. So, when do I get to the big city? When do I get to a village? Or
totally. I think every Elder Scrolls game has started in a cave. I think Arena did, Daggerfall did, Morrowind is on a boat. I think, right? You start on a boat, but Oblivion and Skyrim are both, I think, in caves.
Oblivion's a dungeon, which counts. I think that counts as that's a man-made cave.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, I think and then no, you're on the back of the
Skyrim
horse
has
cart,
the horse
I guess,
cart,
for that. But yeah, so I was totally with you, and I was like, literally in the I think in the mythos of Arx Fatalis, literally, like, the sun has scorched the surface, so nobody goes downstairs anymore. Downstairs. Downstairs. Arx Fatalis means fatal fortress in Latin, so that's why that's their dungeon game. We will talk more next week on our Patreon only podcast about some of the gameplay I did for this documentary, which Jeremy was watching me do over my shoulder, which was some of the most intense moments of my production life, for, like, good reasons and bad reasons. We'll get into it next week. So if you want to support our show and get access to those, please, by all means, go to patreon.com/noclip. You'll get access to an RSS feed with our Patreon only podcast, all the ones we've done in the past as well. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we'll talk about it more as well a little bit once we get back on the public feed. And also, I'm going to put up some sort of like a Q&A post-mortem on this doc as well. So we'll be taking questions from the YouTube comments and stuff like that on this doc. So there'll be a bunch of, postscript kind of about this doc, because there's a lot to talk about.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, totally. Even when it's up. So youtube.com/noclip video if you want to check out any of that stuff. And that's pretty much all the housekeeping, I think, on my end. We have a little bit of news before we get to our cheat code. Something that popped up, which is bizarrely close to home for you, Frank.
Yeah. This was okay. So this is a story. I hadn't even tweeted about this yet because it's like still in development. And it's so exciting to me. So for context, I grew up in Southern California, Orange County. I went to Tribuca Hills High School, which is in Mission Viejo, 2009. So alumni end up like finding my YouTube channel or following me. So someone messaged me on Twitter yesterday saying, check this out. And it was a link to a Tribuca Hills High School Minecraft prom. And what this is, it was a trailer, like already like these. So what it is California students recreated their entire high school in Minecraft to host their senior prom because COVID canceled theirs. So the trailer starts and all of a sudden it's an aerial sky shot of my high school. And I'm like, wait, this isn't Google Earth, and the camera zooms in, and all of a sudden you realize like, holy crap, the entirety of my high school is rebuilt in Minecraft. And I was blown away. Like, I mean, funny enough, the cheat code this week is stunned. I literally was stunned. I was like, oh my god.
And they're going to use it for, was this for prom?
So this is the other thing too. So the trailer, they talk about, hey, before COVID happened, we're working on this project in Minecraft, and little did we know everything would change. And okay, now we're gonna have our prom in Minecraft. So like what the story seems to be is these kids were just working on building their high school for fun, because I don't know if they have a Minecraft club, a coding club, or whatever. They made their school in Minecraft. COVID happens, schools are in quarantine, schools are shut down. The kids band together to finish building their school, and now for the common good of hosting a virtual prom. Like it's such a wild thing, and people
it's also like fitting for that generation. I feel like, because like all those kids who grew up playing, like this is of the natural end of that story.
Yeah.
There have been music festivals in Minecraft as well. 100 Gex and a bunch of artists put on like a festival in a Minecraft server and stuff. So it's funny how these like I have never played Minecraft. I don't know if that's like a sin or if it's an emergent property of the fact.
You should play Minecraft.
I know. I don't know. It's like,
have you played Legos?
I've played many a Legos, but yeah, Minecraft. I don't know. It's just like it's funny. Minecraft seems like an extension of existence for like a generation below mine, maybe. So it makes sense that like it's a fitting venue for this kind of thing. It's not a thing I would have thought of, but it seemed to be blowing up out of necessity now.
Yeah, and it's wild that it was applied to this, because it makes sense. Because like, you know, what else are you gonna do? You can't, like, God, I feel for kids not being able to go to prom, like not being able to like get out of the view of your parents to do some shit you shouldn't be doing, which is like so much of the experience of being a teenager, especially when you're getting out of high school and going towards college. God, what are they going to do for college? Let's build your college in. Oh my God, is Second Life going to happen again? Is that where this ends?
Oh no!
Do you remember all those colleges that were like actual colleges made Second Life versions of their colleges and like tried to put on classes and stuff? Like, it's so weird. I watched a YouTube video a couple of years back where some guy did a tour of all the like defunct Second Life colleges that are still exist. You can still go to them.
Were they were they accredited universities, or were they like Phoenix University Online kind of thing?
Oh, I think it's a mix, but there was definitely like I think an Ivy League school was in there as well. They're so strange.
That's bizarre.
And some of them have like some of them were like very literal, like they made the classroom, and they like there's still stuff on the whiteboard kind of thing, like you can go in there and there's like still notes left and stuff. And some of them were like more, because it's like Second Life, you don't need to like rebuild this world.
Yeah, you could have class on the back of like a purple elephant, it doesn't matter.
Totally. So some of them are a bit more avant-garde, but yeah,
some of them are just like Chernobyl. They're just like everyone left in a hurry, and
why not? And like I remember like thinking like, I wonder if they'll go in this class and they'll just be like a sex den, because like that's to me that's what Second Life is.
That's where I thought that was going.
Yeah. So do you know when the prom is on, Frank? Or
so the Tribuco prom is going to be Saturday, May 30th. And there's information on Instagram.com/Tribuco prom. Like, I think just everyone should see this trailer because it just blew me away. Like, they recreate the insides of the classroom. But yeah, they said everyone's invited. So check it out. It's in Minecraft Java edition. But yeah, nice. I'm excited to like just discover more about these kids. Like, I think it's really inspiring. Again, like there's something charming about like the video game kids saving prom. Like, it's so cool. It's such an inversion. I love it.
Go hunt that down. We might could be cool to make a video out of that. We're that's kind of the world we're in at the moment anyway, with all these recordings of all these are sort of what we call them Zoom documentaries we're kind of working on between 80s and everything. There is one I've been working on, which I finished filming this week actually with actually was talking to some folks in Malaysia on Monday for this one. So it's an interesting project. I can't talk about it quite yet. I think once Arkane's up, we're gonna let patrons know, but we're gonna have this doc up first week of June, I think. It's not particularly long, but it's a really fun project. Kind of coming off the heels a little bit of the Creative Assembly one, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. Gentlemen, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about our cheat code this week. We rolled a dice and the universe gave us 4 simple letters. STUN. Stun. If you didn't know, every week here on the Noclip podcast, we go to a random word generator. We roll the dice 3 times and we pick a random word, and then we come back to the podcast after sort of experiencing that word, ideating on it, thinking about games we played in the past that reference it, thinking about concepts or ideas, films, things in life, whatever. And we come back with all of our goodies and we have a little chin wag about it here. I went to a place I wasn't really thinking actually at the start and had an absolute blast. But I kind of want to. I almost feel like I want to sort of speak about my moment as little as possible and jump into the comments as quick as possible because there's so many different like ways this one went. But before we do that, Frank, you go ahead with yours. Where did you go? I'm not surprised. This is where you went.
So my 2 thoughts when I heard stun. One was Siphon filter because the taser's great. We'll chat about that later. But then the thing that defaulted the game I was hungry to play was specifically WW 2K16, which features Stone Cold Steve Austin's showcase mode, in which Stone Cold as a wrestler debuted as the stunning Steve Austin and then became famous for his finisher, the Stone Cold Stunner.
Wait, he was originally called the stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah, stunning Steve Austin.
Was he like wearing like roller derby clothes or something?
He had blonde flowing blonde hair. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Yeah. I think it was in WCW, and then that gimmick didn't work, and then he was a free agent, and then eventually he landed in WWF as like, hey, I'm the Rattlesnake. Like wrestling. Yeah, he rebranded, but the career mode takes you through it. So you start as stunning Steve Austin. And you unlock stunning Steve Austin as a character.
Oh my God, he looks like a hunky Drew Scanlon.
Yeah.
Look at this. Oh my God. Sorry, podcast listeners.
Oh my God, he does look like a hunky Drew Scanlon.
Oh Lord. I can't believe Stone Cold, the like tough bald guy of wrestling, was like this beautiful. He's wearing like fucking leopard skin pants.
He's looking
pants.
good.
Yeah.
He's looking stunning.
Mm-hmm.
So you play this in the... By the way, I am of the impression, having not played this game, I think I might have played the game a little bit, that this is not a... Is this not a good wrestling game?
So...
Or what do you think about this era of games?
So originally when this came out in 2016, I was like, oh, this sucks. I didn't play it. I was like, I don't get it. Whatever. As a kid, I grew up with like obsessed over the PS2 era SmackDown games. And then of course, even before that, all the No Mercy WCW, all the N64 are legendary. WrestleMania 2000, all those phenomenal. Those ruled. PS2 era SmackDown games rule. 360 era, I kind of stopped following wrestling. But what happened was when 2K took over, it used to be super arcadey. 2K took over, and then they tried to like rebrand all the 2K games as like their sims, like simulation games. So when you play the 2K games, all of a sudden it's not fast arcadey. It's okay. You got to mash the button. You got to work these guys' muscles. Okay, it's like it becomes like almost like a rhythm game, and it's like, oh, this is slow and heavy, but it's trying to simulate you working a match. So, but when I play 2020, I feel like especially when we research games, I really try to ground myself and understand. Okay, what is this game about? What's this game conveying? Now when I play it, it's the way this game works. It's actually like you are working a wrestling match in the sense of working where it's like you're putting on a show. You gotta let the other guy get some hits in. You gotta do you're coordinating together, and it's like it feels more now like you're playing almost like an interactive like movie, like almost like kind of doing a match. Almost feels more like shooting in the Telltale games where you gotta drift your icon over here and hit X on the zombie's head. It's like, but again, that's how wrestling is. Wrestling is kind of scripted in the events of how you work the matches.
How does the mode differ from like a... Like, does it differ from like just like playing a bunch of matches in a row? Is there like story stuff or?
Yes. So showcase mode, and again, I haven't played beyond it. Showcase mode is amazing. It is like you are playing a mini-series documentary on Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it starts 1994. Stunning Steve Austin was in WCW. He fought Johnny Steamboat. Here's the match, and then it starts with. I'll go to an even better match. So it's like they will do like little sizzled reel documentaries, and then they'll take you, and it's like Tampa Bay, Florida, 1994, this arena, and the match starts, I'll use King of the Ring as an example. So it's the King of the Ring match. It's the pay-per-view, and they have like the commentary and like the audio dubbed over the animation. So it's almost like you're watching Toy Story or something, where it's like it's the video game characters, but they just dub the real fucking audio. And then during the match, they have Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler like redo their commentary lines, and it's like. And so that's really cool. It's you're playing the story of Steve Austin. It is a video game movie. And so for each match, like I'll use like one against The Rock as an example. There's Mankind. There's like different spots. So the match starts and it's part 1, throw Mankind out of the ring. Spot 2, do like suplex him into the table. Spot 3,
that's cool.
Like let him pin you. Spot 4, kick out of it. Spot 5, he does his finisher. You do your finisher, and then when you do the spots, it uses the audio like back then. It's like, oh my God, Mankind he crashed through the table, and they will dub like it's so cool.
That's actually super neat. Yeah.
Yeah. That also, it kind of like plays with the medium a little bit, because since wrestling is this thing where it's creating the illusion that it's this competitive sporting event and two dudes grappling, but then there's like a layer of scripting and artifice underneath that's trying to be veiled away. It's interesting how a video game can kind of play with that, where like I remember some of the N64 games had elements where it's just like mash A to like do a good grapple or whatever, and that kind of feels like a weird like quick time event Resident Evil thing, and it makes it feel more scripted. And then there are elements where you're just like running around hitting the C button to like clothesline someone and that feels more like an action game. And so it's interesting. I never really thought about that before, but the actual style of input for the gameplay determines how much it feels like it's like a sporting event versus like a like a wrestling match, like a theatrical event.
Yeah, it's wild how when you think about like given the context of modern wrestling games, the older N64 classic ones just feel like fighting games or like or beat 'em ups. Like they're kind of like, I remember playing, what was the one I used to play on the Mega Drive? It was WrestleMania or something. It was the one with Doink the Clown where he could pull out like a fucking hammer. You know what I mean? Like it was just
the Midway did a bunch.
Yeah, the Midway one. Yeah. Yeah, that our Bram Van Bigelow's pants went on fire. You know what I mean? Like his fucking leotard he wears or whatever. Like even that was just that was like Mortal Kombat basically. I mean, it was Midway, so it was. But it's funny how in a way the simulation aspect works in this context. And I know I've listened to Jeff Gerstmann over on the Giant Bombcast often talk about he wishes that's the way wrestling games would go. Would be to lean into the playing a mark or working a show or, like that whole thing, putting on a show for the fans, getting rated out of the, how big the pop is and not whether or not you won the match. So it's cool that they did it in this mode. I don't know if I never heard of this or maybe just forgot about it over the years, but how long is it? Like, does it go on for a while? Do you get to spray a milk truck at any stage?
Yeah, so I think like they will do like gimmicks like that. So I got about maybe a third of the way through it, and it's good enough that I think I'm gonna keep going and beat it. But it's awesome. Long and it's so cool. The coolest thing too, like the one like last thing I want to say is like the game, again, if you're a wrestling mark, if you're a huge fan, this game is loaded with fan service. As you're going through Showcase, it's like, okay, you unlock Stone Cold 94. You unlock 1996 Stone Cold, 2001 Stone Cold, but also your opponents. You unlock 1999 Undertaker, 2001 Undertaker, like 1996 The Rock versus like the current, like, but if you're a wrestling fan, you know the difference because when wrestlers put on weight, when they change gimmicks and like their costuming is different. And so like this one plays into like there's all the contemporary stuff which I don't care about, but then this is focused on Attitude Era, which is like that's cool. My thing. So
get your Brahma Bull.
Yeah, so it's full of great fan service.
That's excellent. Nice shout. From working games to making games, Jeremy Jane. You've been dabbling in Unity for a while now.
I've been dabbling in Unity off and on. It's like music is what I do for fun most of the time as like a passion thing. But it's nice to have, I've described it on a previous podcast as Unity is kind of like a super left-brained creative hobby. So it's like painting if you painted with math. And so I've wanted to, I'm a big fan of tactics RPGs. So like Ogre Battle Tactics Ogre and the Final Fantasy Tactics and Divinity, Into the Breach, games like these, all kind of like different takes on that genre. Into the Breach is more of like a board game tabletop kind of spin on it. It's like a puzzle box, whereas something like Divinity is like a more open-ended kind of strategy RPG, throwback to older computer RPG kind of things, PC games. And so I, not because of our keyword, although this factors in, I started messing around with Unity a little more recently and thinking, like, I think I could prototype a very, very rudimentary strategy RPG or tactics RPG battle system. Little did I know, everything in Unity is incredibly difficult. So, I mean, I'm sure for someone who's really good at Unity, this is like gonna sound so dumb. But let me put myself out there as to be laughed at by the pros, and hopefully to bring a piece of Promethean knowledge back to the layman like myself. So I had the thought when I started messing around with the system a little bit, was like, oh, if I can prototype a stun mechanic before the podcast, I'll be a hero. They'll carry me out of here on their hands and they'll be like, this dude can make video games. That did not happen, but that is the stun tie-in. So, but what did happen was what I was trying to do was design a square grid and have each, so like 8x8, like a chessboard, which actually Into the Breach is also 8x8. And what I was trying to do was have a position tracking mechanic, because that seems like the underpinning of this whole thing is knowing how big the board is and where everything on the board is. Like having each position on the board be a coordinate and being able to track if that coordinate is occupied, what's going on there, if you can move there, all these things. So that's the first thing I was trying to prototype. And I was coding a couple nights ago. It was getting really late, and I was trying to find an elegant solution for like finding a variable that could represent all these different positions and having one statement that's like, if this, then this. And I just, no matter how many different ways I did it, I couldn't figure out an elegant solution for it. And I was like, I don't know why. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not trying to like optimize this game that's like little tiny 16-bit pixel sprites. And so I made since there were 64 game objects that represented the different positions, I made a 64 tiered if-else statement. And for anyone who's never coded before,
yes,
an if statement is like, if this, then do this. So it checks a conditional statement, right? So you could say like, if this is true, do this. So what I did was I did a thing that was like, if, player move is true, like I can move the player and position equals, X position equals 0 and Y position equals 0, then do this, right? So repeat that 63 more times.
That is amazing.
For each of the coordinates. So X1, Y0, X2, Y0, et cetera, for the whole thing. And it took me a really long time and a lot of copy paste to do. But it totally worked. It compiled the first time. It totally worked. It worked perfectly. But I'm realizing the downside to it now is I was like, all right, cool. So that's like the player. But then I was like, all right, well, now I want to do the cursor and have a similar thing. And then I was like, oh God, am I going to have to just copy paste this monstrosity of like a cascade of if else's? And I did. And I'm sure someone is going to listen to this podcast and be like, you idiot. Like this is seriously, reach out to me on Twitter if you have a good solution for this. I'm sure there is one. Yeah, the point of the story, I guess, is that like for a long time I didn't want to. I messed around a little bit with learning C++ in high school and like learning BASIC, and I made like a Link to the Past clone kind of thing. But I hit a wall where I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this because it feels like I'm constantly reinventing the wheel just to do basic things. But I think at the time that's because in my mind I was like, oh, I want to make like Ocarina of Time,
right?
And
yeah.
I think the cool thing now is because there's been this resurgence of indies that have brought back the aesthetic and gameplay mechanics of a lot of retro games and basically been like, listen, I know we've progressed past Super Nintendo, but that doesn't mean the style of games that would come out on Super Nintendo are obsolete or that we've done everything that's to be done with those things. And so like that's a more attainable goal, and B, like you don't have to get there in the prettiest way. And so the fun of this hobby for me is that I'm like, I want to do this. I know loosely how to get there. Let's get there in any way that possibly works. And so I hope this inspires at least one person to be like, like if this idiot can do it.
Well, like I think that's like actually a really like mature allegory for like the reason why a lot of people stop any creative project, which is that like you knew that that's not the optimized way to do it. I don't think I've ever made an if else that had more than like 4, maybe.
It was hideous.
At
I
that
tried
stage,
to do
I'm
it with. I tried to do a switch case statement too, which switch case is the working man's if else, and
Right.
I couldn't figure out a way to do it because there were 2 coordinates, and like a switch case can't do like a vector 2, like a 2 coordinate variable. So
Okay, right, yeah. Yeah, if anyone's wondering, this is C#, which is, similar to Java and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of object oriented. Yeah, like I don't know, like my brain thinks like an array or something like that might be where this comes in. I don't know. Or,
yeah, I think the optimal way to do it
transform or something.
So I have an array. I have a 64-piece array that's each of the game objects for each of the positions. But then I have to load that into the script for each thing that has to move. And I'm like, God, I'd make the least optimized video game ever. I'm gonna make like a 16-bit Game Boy Advance game that can only run on like a quantum government computer.
But what's also funny is that you've basically locked yourself into a 64-grid map.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
everything.
Well, so that plays into it because I had the idea that if you always have the game board the same size, that like imagine a kind of a hybridization of Divinity and Into the Breach. I'm giving away my ideas here.
Right.
Someone can rip me off and make this game before I do. If you walk into an environment and the game board is always the same size, then what you can essentially do is pull data from the, like, how in Link to the Past, there's like squares of the map. So the camera doesn't move as you move. The camera locks into a position. And then if you move off screen, it scans over to the next one. So I was thinking that, I'm sure there's been a game that's done this, but I was thinking if the game board, if the abstract game board is always the same size, you can lay that position tracking grid onto any environment in the game if it does that Link to the Past style camera shifting thing. And then any environment can become an environment in which combat can happen because it'll just pull data on where there's walls, where there's enemies, where there's players, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the idea of locking it into that size. But definitely there's a better way to do it, I'm sure.
But what I like is that, a lot of people in that scenario would like look at what they're doing. Like, this isn't the best way of doing it. The best way of doing it is too hard. And then get discouraged and walk away from it, right? But you did the right thing, which is that thing that, I think people get better at this the older they get, maybe, or something, or the more they make stuff. But you just like, no, like I'll just do it this way. Like the stream needs to go down the mountain, right? Like I can't get through this way. I can beat myself up against this and try and erode this problem, or I'll just go around it and do it this way. Which is really cool because, like, you probably learned a bunch of stuff on the way. You probably have a way better idea of the problem.
Totally. And you can always go back and change stuff too. Like I've found a similar thing with making music, which is that sometimes you get locked up and you have this 30-second chunk of something good, and then you try to add something onto it and you're like, it's not as good as that good little chunk. But you can always change things. Like, that's the fun about art, is just like enjoying being creative. And so just because the song you're making isn't the greatest song of all time, or like just because that little melody isn't the greatest melody of all time, like make something, make it work as well as you can, focus on that element until it's as good as you can possibly make it in that moment, and then pull back, and like you've grown as a creative person, and maybe you come back to it later and make it better.
Yeah, momentum is so important. Like, and if you stop momentum in one part of it, just take 2 steps to the side and work on this other thing over here. Like, sometimes, like, I'm in the edit and it's just too much, and I'll just go and like do log notes or something. You know what I mean? Just as long as it's something that I'm actually contributing to the overall project. The trailer stuff is actually like that, where I had a completely different idea for the music in it, and I just couldn't get it to work. I was trying for so long to get it to work, and it was a longer trailer and all this. And then I just went into my audio bin that I'd pulled for this project and just went, look, is there another song in here? And I picked one out that was a lot more like modern and sort of funkier. And I was like, oh, this actually kind of feels more French and kind of like, exciting. And then I think 90 minutes later, the trailer was like basically structurally done. It just and I was like, whoa, okay, huh.
It's almost like if you reach a point in any creative process, or this probably extends beyond creative processes, but as someone who does like freelance creative work, that's where my mind goes. If you reach a point where you're like, oh no, I can't figure out what to put here, but I guess this would work as a placeholder. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, find the best possible placeholder and then visit it with fresh eyes or ears later. And you'll either find that placeholder works perfectly well, or you'll see what's wrong with it with fresh perspective. Yeah.
And having something there lets you see it from a different angle. It's like, if you don't do anything, I forget, the simplest version of this I can ever think of is, I had an old graphic design teacher who just said, write the ideas down, get them out of your head. Like, that's one of the most important things. If you've like a hole in this project that's there and you don't fill it with anything, you're constantly going to be thinking about what's the best thing to put in this hole. It's like, no, just chuck something in, and then maybe there's an aspect in that thing you chucked in that kind of actually works and makes you rethink the thing that you would put in. You were thinking, but if you don't put anything in there, you're just that's gonna kill you. It's gonna like hold your entire project hostage.
And it puts pressure on that one element too, where you're like, if you don't fill that hole with something, even a placeholder, then you'll like constantly self-aggrandize how important that element is to get right, and you'll never put anything in there.
Yeah, and just waste hours and hours. I just think of all the edits I did that now I'm just get something in, it's fine, and then stand back and see what actually needs to be changed.
We're all not there's a thing that Dan Harmon says about writing, and I think about it a lot, which is that not everyone tries to create something that's as good as the stuff that they consume in that same medium. And so if you're trying to write a book, you'll never write a book that's as good as the book you want to write, because you're always trying to write a book that you would read if someone else wrote it. And like our tastes are always above where our skill level is at, and that's good. That's like that makes a good creative person, is a person who has discernment and tastes and knows what they like and has like a vision for these things. But the one thing is that everyone is a good editor. Everyone can watch a movie and say that was a piece of shit or that was a really good movie. And so like, yeah, make a piece of shit and then critique your own piece of shit.
Totally. I enjoy my shits.
That's
really
good advice.
Ones.
That's timely advice, timeless advice.
For mine, I was about to say speaking of shit, but that's actually doesn't really apply at all. For mine, I ended up I had a bunch. I originally I was thinking about SWAT 4 because I was thinking of Stunning, and then I just didn't really want to talk about police brutality for 20 minutes, so I decided to go in a different direction, and I thought about setting my phasers to stun. I don't consider myself a Star Trek like fan, like a Trekkie, but I have like watched all of TNG and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and the movies, but like mostly because they were on like after I got home from school, that type of thing, right? And I really enjoyed them a lot. And two of my favorite games ever are first-person shooters from the 90s are two Star Trek games, the Elite Force series, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, and I think the sequel was called Star Trek Elite Force 2 because it doesn't really play on Voyager. So I went back and played some of these. They are not available anywhere. They're not on Steam. They're not on GOG. They exist in licensing hell, I imagine, because of the like they're super Star Trekky. They have all the LCARs. The name of the LCARs is what they refer to as the interface they use. All like those like rectangles and things they use when they're touching the keypads. Everything's done in LCARs, but it's in the Quake 3 engine. So it's like if you were like a Quake 3 fan and this thing came out, it was like amazing because it felt exactly like Quake 3. The multiplayer mode in it was basically a reskin of Quake 3 with like Tuvok and Captain Janeway and shit. And the game itself is like okay. The reason I wanted to play it was I was thinking, it'd be really novel to have a game where you can like stun people because like Star Trek is it's quite anti violence, I guess. It's kind of about solving problems. It's about diplomacy, culture and race and like all, what binds us and what separates us and all that sort of stuff. So I was, being like, I hadn't played this game in donkey's years. I managed to get it. It's on like an abandonware website. Both games are. You can literally just download the folder of the game. And then I had to like do a little thing to make sure to make sure it would run. I had to put it in like the root C drive and rename it as just like EF or something, the default installation, because otherwise it wouldn't run. And you can get an ISO as well. Don't pirate games, but also this is abandonware, so who gives a shit? But this game is just like a fucking violent first-person shooter. I totally forgot that you start off on a Borg cube and you can use your phaser, but of course the Borg, you shoot them like 3 times and then they know how your phaser works, so you have to like be really careful and like get through these areas. But it's like the most linear game ever. And then you eventually get a weapon that I forget, they did this in one of the Star Treks where it like changes its phasing it changes its like frequency enough so that the Borg can't block it with their shields. And yeah, I played like a couple hours of it, and it just reminds me how like kind of basic 90s first person shooters were. It's made by Raven, who at this time were, they made like Soldier of Fortune, the first one. They did, I want to say, Jedi Academy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was them. They went on to make Quake. What was it? Quake Wars? No, Enemy Territory Quake Wars. Yeah. So they're like, Raven are one of the strongest hands in first person, and they're have made like shed loads of first person games. But this was the first, I want to say, Quake 3 game that they'd made, or Quake 3 engine game that they'd worked on. And yeah, it's weird. The most fun parts are the parts where you're on the ship, because you get to like bounce around and like you can like run up to Captain Janeway and say hey, and like go in her like little office room and like talk to Tuvok, and he gives you shit. And it was an interesting idea for the narrative where they basically just plugged in this, like, they're called the Hazard Team, and they're just like 4 extra characters that they plug into the existing Star Trek world. They have all the right voices. The sequel was made by Ritual, who are the folks who made like Sin, and that game starts on Voyager, but then you end up getting like hired by Picard, and then you're on the Enterprise for a while, and it's very like Enterprisey, where every mission is like a different faction and all that sort of stuff. But it's the same thing where like walking around the spaceship is the most interesting part. Because I feel like when you watch the show, it always feels like a soundstage. There's never like, I think it was like maybe Deep Space Nine or Voyager where they started doing long shots on the halls, but always you got the sense that like if the camera turned around, there was somebody manually opening doors, or it was all fake. Whereas in this, there's like these extended moments where you're like walking around and going in Jeffries tubes and like doing all this. Like, I guess I am a Trekkie, aren't I?
I think you've just outed yourself as a Trekkie.
Yeah,
I've always thought of you as someone who was really into Star Trek.
I never liked, like Star Wars. I've watched all those too, and they didn't speak to me so much. I guess I didn't watch them at the right age. I reckon I was, I didn't watch the original trilogy until like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. But
it's too late.
I know. I have nothing derogatory to say about Trekkies, but I guess I don't know. I like my Mr. Plinkett reviews.
Did you say there was a character named Tuvok?
Oh yeah, there's a character.
Does anyone ever call him Tuvok Shakur?
Tuvok. Does he pull out his cerebral bore? There's a great there's a character called Tuvok he's essentially the Spock of this series. He's a Vulcan, and then there's this character called Neelix, who is kind of like Snarf. Yeah, he's kind of Snarf, but he's also he's like the cook, and he has like a girlfriend who looks like a beautiful 17-year-old. I think she's like older, so it's always weird in the fiction where you're like this weird sort of what appears to be an older guy who is also a cat, who
also has Snarf energy about him,
and is going out with this like, she's kind of, it's weird. Anyway, Neelix and Tuvok at one stage get involved in a tragic teleporter accident where they become Tuvix. The same person.
Where do they come up with this stuff?
I know. So imagine, a Vulcan is a black Vulcan as well in the show. I don't think there hadn't been any black Vulcans up until that stage, but imagine a black Vulcan mixed with a cat man, and that's Tuvix. And eventually they do the science to, I don't know how this fucking works, but they manage to make them different again, to like separate their molecules or whatever. It's only 10 minutes left in the show. We got to figure this out. And like Tuvix like prays for his life. It's so fucked up. Yeah, it's
what's the tone of like that episode in particular? Maybe the series at large. It's Star Trek is like a little whimsical, is it?
Yeah,
like,
Voyager. Like Deep Space Nine was the one that was like, that was a bit hardcore. That's like American History X meets Star Trek, not just
American History Tracks.
Yeah, that's perfect. Exactly. Because Benjamin Sisko is the teacher in American History X. It's the only 2 things I've ever seen him in. So my brain goes, that's more political and serious. And it's also more like a series. Like you can't really watch those out of order. They have, it's not Monster of the Week. It's not Planet of the Week, which Voyager very much is, although there is an arc to it. They're trying to get home. They got transported into another part of the space, whatever. But no, Voyager was like pretty whimsical. But then, every once in a while you'd have the 2-parter that ended on a cliffhanger. But the Tuvix one always stands out as like something that's like, it's a little bit, those shows always went, they're always interesting. They're always about like, life and death and interesting decisions you had to make and choices and morality and that type of thing. So yeah, poor Tuvix didn't make it though. Tuvix died, so Tuvok and Neelix could get back to his lady. What was her name again? Kess. Yeah. I am definitely a Trekkie, aren't I?
You're definitely a Trekkie. We've confirmed it. Rest in power, Tuvix.
Right. So that was Stun. That was our adventure into the world of Stun. But we had lots of feedback from our good friends in the Noclip community. You can email us, of course, podcast@noclip.video. Most people seem to be either tweeting us or doing #podcast questions on Discord, going into that channel. This has been collated by Frank Howley. Frank, what are we talking about? What are the most stunning submissions this week?
We got a lot of really good stuff. Real fast, if you actually, do you want to read this next submission to carry on the Trek? Let's get the Trekkie to read this one. Go for it.
No worries. This is from Anna Varki, and they say, I wish there was a Star Trek game that was executed like Disco Elysium, in the sense that it's just dialogue and the player character solving problems via said dialogue and mild environmental puzzles. Reasoning, action and violence and fast-paced things aren't what Trek was most primarily about. The mechanics and presentation of Disco Elysium could be used to make an awesome Star Trek game. That's a fantastic idea. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Combat was such a rare, combat arguments, conversations was where the conflict was in Star Trek, and like different needs or desires or things that people, factions or morals or whatever, which is why all these modern, Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard just completely miss the mark, because they don't have people working behind them who are confident enough to write really good, compelling, conflict. Like Star Trek is more like the West Wing than it is, Star Wars. It's never been that. So yeah, like Disco Elite, that sounds really good. I love Disco Elysium. I need to play more of it. I played like maybe 6 or 7 hours. But yeah, that idea of just having like a bunch of super smart conversational mechanics and a small space, a small sandbox to like do that. Yeah, that would be super neat. There's definitely, I feel like Star Trek is do the revival that makes sense and not, in a weird way, Enterprise now actually kind of feels more like Star Trek than all the stuff they've released in recent years. It's, yeah, maybe it's good on its own terms, but it's not Star Trek to me. Yeah, did you want me to take this next one as well? I see my name by it. Sorry, I know I've been talking a lot. Michael Fossback says, when I think of the word stun as it relates to games, I immediately have flashbacks to getting stun locked in World of Warcraft PvP. Good times? Yeah, I thought about that too. I wasn't a rogue, but I had a Hammer of Justice was my paladin thing. So yeah, super. I couldn't do 2 World of Warcraft ones though. I already did World of Warcraft 2 weeks ago.
When in doubt, as the paladin too, you could I don't remember at what level it got long enough, and I'm sure this got patched out, but you could Bubble Hearth, which was I think it was like Divine Light, Divine Shield or something.
Divine Intervention.
Divine Intervention. Yeah. There you go. Good name too. You'd create like an invincible shield that lasted like 7 seconds, which was just long enough to use your Hearthstone, which teleports you back to whatever tavern of your choosing. So like a bunch of horde rogues would come out of the woodwork and try to assassinate you. You would just disappear with like no effort at all.
What do you think they were doing in that animation? Was he rubbing the stone, or
I think he was just rubbing it in their faces. He's like, I'm out. You ain't got me.
What's next, Frank?
All right. We had a Hassan from our Discord submitted this. Stun the insect from Bloody Roar, which appears to be a giant beetle dude, which is amazing. Bloody Roar is like one fighting game series I never got too deep into, but I love that there's just straight up a dude named Stun. That's
right. Yeah, I never played those on an old Hudson series. Yeah, I never played those. There's a bunch of them though. On the
Hudson
PlayStation 2.
of Bomberman fame?
Yep, the very same.
Interesting.
Yeah, the games are super anime. So that's like the one thing that's like, oh, this looks cool. The next one, Dysphonia says the Riot Prod from Deus Ex.
Oh yeah, there was like I I've been watching a lot of Deus Ex stuff recently as well with this Arkane doc because Harvey's in it. Yeah, there was a stun. That's basically a stun baton, you know, getting back to, you know, police, whatever. Over.
You can't escape this theme. What's happening?
It's ever a return.
Yeah, Jeremy, do you want to take this next one from the Twitter?
Yeah, absolutely. So Birdman Drew on Twitter says, my favorite pick has to be the stun grenades from Metal Gear Solid. Non-lethal, and you get to make baddies see stars. I've always wondered about the like cartoon trope of like when stars appear above your head when you're stunned. Is that like...
Happened to be.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, enlighten me, because I've always wondered if that was where that came from or what that is.
Yeah, I thought it was a weird animation thing or something. I've been knocked out once. I was playing a game of soccer, and I was a goalkeeper for, you know, whatever, 15 years, and I was diving down for a ball, and I got kicked under the chin, and so my neck went back, and then I hit the ground, and I was out for not very long, but like maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and I came to, and when I woke up, the first thing I saw was so basically, like, I think somebody said it's like your optic nerve turning back on or something. Or like reacting or reconnecting with your brain. But yeah, it's the only time I've ever seen it. But it's literally, imagine like points of light, like little, just like pure white. It's not bright or anything. It's almost like noise kind of, but like very distinct. Yeah.
Whoa, that's terrifying.
Yeah, isn't it wild? Yeah, I've never talked to anyone, I don't think, who's had that. Maybe I have or something, but I wouldn't. Oh, that's what that is. Okay, cool.
This is a little tangential, but when I was in college, someone was a friend of mine at a party was partaking in nitrous oxide, a legal intoxicant that I am not recommending to anyone who's listening to this. And it's the whipped cream gas, the gas and whipped cream things.
Whippets, is that what they say? Or
yes,
yeah. Okay.
And so he was loading one of the cartridges into a whipped cream container, and something went awry. I don't know what. I was standing nearby, and it blew up. And there was no like shrapnel shot out, but the noise was so deafening that it was the only time in my life my vision like flashed off for a second.
Wow.
I think my brain was just so like concussed by the noise that I just like, it went black for a second and then it faded back in. But the most notable thing was the auditory effect of it, because it was so loud. Everyone in the room went deaf for a second, and then it kind of came back like in World War II movies where it's like,
right.
And like the sergeant is yelling at you, but you can't hear him. It was literally that for a minute. Someone was talking to me and they were like, and I was just like,
that's wild.
But it did not see stars.
Nuts. Yeah,
it's bad.
I love those the chaff grenades as well. I remember there's so many concepts in that game that I'd never heard of, like chaff. Yeah, all those effects were really cool. I like those a lot.
Chafe grenades.
Chafe,
also
is it
bad.
Chafe?
No, I was just saying like an alternate. It just makes you chafe.
Well, that's a funny thing about a lot of these games. Well, they didn't have voice work, or they limited voice work, so forever, a lot of us were pronouncing things totally different. You know.
Yeah, I had a friend who pronounced elite as Elite.
Elite.
And so we would play Halo, and he'd be like, "Oh, we got to take out these Elite guys."
It's amazing. I think I said it as podcast before. I used to say the word genre as Janeer.
Janeer.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. It just means I read it wrong, or I'm like slightly dyslexic or something. But yeah, forever I called it Janeer. I'd read it in PC Gamer magazine. Then I was like, listen to like the Hotspot or something, and somebody said genre, and I was like, oh, okay, whoops.
I had an elementary school friend who pronounced Dalsum in Street Fighter as Daholism.
That's great.
Do you
practice Daholism?
Yeah, and it could also even be Dalsim. I'm probably even saying it wrong, but yeah, Daholism always stuck with me as like, whoa, maybe this kid's right and we're the ones who are wrong.
Daholism. Yeah.
I love it.
Did he go to Daholics Anonymous?
Nice.
And then Tim Turry from PlayStation submitted a lovely GIF of a Siphon filter, the taser, the stun gun. Oh my gosh, that was the first thing that popped in my mind. Playing that game on PS1, like that's all I did. Is
this person exploding in this GIF? Yeah. They're like setting on fire because they're being tased so much.
Yeah, it's an incredible effect where Gabe, you like shoot out the taser, it chugs, it stuns them, and then they explode on fire. But what's amazing in that game is you can hold the taser effect infinitely. So they will shake and explode and just
Forever.
violently thrash until you let go of like L1 and then they drop dead.
And
so
there's no ammo on the taser. Like
it's infinite. It's like
okay.
your default. If you run out of ammo, you always have your taser, and it's like it's psychopathic. It's crazy. Like shooting people will be way more humane than Gabe running around the streets of DZ, like eliminating. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Amazing.
Jesus.
You got some quick hits down here at the bottom as well.
Yeah. So we got Rami Ismail, friend of Noclip, said Golden Sun. Now, I am familiar with Golden Sun, but did not play. It was a Game Boy Advance, I believe, like 16-bit RPG, but I did not play it.
Yeah,
you guys?
Yeah, I remember hearing about it a lot, but I wasn't a NES kid, right? So this is definitely one I never went back to or anything. Did you play that at all, Frank?
One summer.
I know it's popular.
Yeah, I played one summer of Golden Sun, and I got to like a boss I couldn't beat, and I was too young to like understand JRPG strategy.
Right.
So I never beat it, but they're very revered.
I was more Golden Axe.
And then let's do some quick hits. Again, everyone sent these on Twitter, which was so many awesome responses. Marty 20K Mitch Dyer said Dota 2, which I imagine it stuns a CC mechanic. Captain Stunder said League of Legends. BitGhost had a great example. In Pokemon, Bulbasaur has the Stun Spore effect, which stuns enemies. Andrew Lean said Monster Hunter Worlds, which is like, you get the hammer bombs, stun them.
Big part of that game.
44.6 said the Flash Bang in Counter-Strike. And then Fergal Kelly said Call of Duty with the stun grenades.
Yeah, I mean, I guess stun is a pretty, common, cross-genre kind of effect. It makes sense. Yeah, it's did you ever kill anyone with a flashbang in CS in Counter-Strike? One of my friends did it once in 1.6. I think it takes off 1 HP.
Oh, really? Yeah. Like if you hit them directly with it?
Yeah, if you smack them in the face or something, I think it kills them.
That's embarrassing.
I'm pretty sure I had a friend who had an Avi and where he had that. But I think remember he used to record Avis, but like he recorded them with fraps, but they only recorded at like 10 frames a second. So whenever you played them back, they were at like triple speed. That type of thing.
So you could make them your buddy icon.
Exactly. Yes. Or stick some Slipknot over it and put it on. Fuck, I don't know. Where did we put videos before YouTube? Kazaa.
You just let the bodies hit the floor, man. Just wherever it ends up, it ends up.
Oh my God. We are the drowning pool of video game podcasts here on Noclip. Thank you so much for collecting all those, Frank. And thanks to everyone for sending in their stun stories. Just to remind folks, we will be not here next week for if you're not a patron. So hold on tight, but we will be doing next week's what do we call it? Cheat code.
Randomly venerated.
Oh yes, we have to.
Or cheat code.
We're going to do our cheat code. The one we talk about now will be on the next one on the public feed. But episode 33 will be our patron only one where we'll be talking about the Arkane stuff. And because it's patron only, we're probably going to get a little bit more into the weeds on it and kind of like maybe I always feel like I can be a bit more open on that one because it's like a smaller group of people. So if you're interested, you want to support our work and you like our documentary on Arkane, or you like the idea of it, patreon.com/noclip. You can follow us on social media on Instagram at Noclip Video, Twitter at Noclip Video. I'm at Daniel Dwyer on Twitter. Frank Cowley is at Frank Cowley and Jeremy Jane is at ADAC Music. How's the music coming along, by the way?
Good. Lots of new music. A lot of stuff I'm excited to share. I sent around a couple tunes to some producer friends and got very positive feedback. And I'm excited. I don't have a release date because I'm trying to decide if I want to do like a single now or hold on and try to make enough stuff for like a little EP or something. But I am committing myself to releasing some stuff and I'm very excited about it.
Excellent. I can't wait to check it out.
Thanks, man.
It's the time, as you so expertly coined, Jeremy, to randomly venerate a new cheat code for next week.
This is the most exciting and nerve-wracking part of every podcast. I don't know. I get so nervous. There are no stakes here.
It's basically just like a Skinner box. Like this, we have created a Skinner box. This is a tappy game in podcast form. There's always a freebie, the one we never use. It's whenever I load the page up, it always automatically generates a word. I never count that one. This week's, oddly enough, is goalkeeper. But I was just telling you a story about getting knocked out, so fucking glad we're not doing that one because I talk about FIFA and you guys be screwed. Probably, I don't know. Okay, so Frank, you want to take these down?
Yes.
We are going to randomly venerate our first word. I've now gone to the stage where I just want to tell you immediately because it feels mean for me to have like this little bit where I know and you don't.
No, that's the best part is watching your reaction.
Danny reacts to words.
Yeah.
Okay, our first word this week is shop.
All right.
That's store for the Americans listening.
That's inoffensive enough.
Yeah, I could go in loads of. Yeah, I worked in a bunch of video game shops. I could, yeah, eShop. There's lots of ways we could bring that one. It's a goodie. Let's see the next one. It's currently number 1 by default. Our next word is neighborhood.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
These are more positive. I feel like usually they're like separation and like heartbreak and
Totally. Yeah, we've had some rough ones in a row. Separation was one. We had another one.
Separation was brutal. Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. And the last one. How are we feeling so far? Shop or neighborhood? Where are we leaning?
I like shop. Shop is
yeah.
good.
I'm 50-50 split on those two.
Me too, kind of. I think I'd go with shop if I had to pick one. But neighborhood's good too. I'm feeling like neighborhood is kind of something we're a little bit maybe better equipped to answer now than we were 2 months ago. You know, for better or for worse, I don't know. But like, yeah, that seems pretty good. But okay, let's see if we can topple shop. Our third one is
Sad one. Let's see.
I don't think we're picking this one. I don't know. I didn't like algebra. This is diagram. Frank just recoiled in his seat. 2 thumbs down.
Yeah. Diagram is a bit it's a bit dry.
Yeah.
Sterile.
Bit
That sounds
diagram.
nerdy. I don't know.
Diagram. Yeah, God, shop or neighborhood?
Yeah. Shop feels good to me. I think I'm on team shop. But I could be persuaded to say would. I'm not.
I'm gonna say shop too.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, shop.
We're happy? Okay.
Yeah.
Next public episode 34, we will be back to talk about shop as our cheat code. It has been randomly venerated this week. So get your emails in, podcast@noclip.video. Wait for the post on Twitter or jump in the Discord podcast channel and let us know your stories about shop. A shop in a video game, a game you bought, a shopping experience perhaps. I don't know.
Maybe it's an acronym for superhuman oval people.
Wow. I didn't think you were going to make it to the end, but you did it. Prove me wrong. Nice work.
Just shooting from the hip.
I love it. What are you doing for the rest of your day, folks? Jeremy, what are you up to today?
It's beautiful out, so I am gonna go on. I've been doing these long bike rides. It's really nice.
Cool.
Because I often feel like I have to leave my house to exercise, and it's like, no, biking around is just nice.
What type of bike do you have? Do you have like a bike or a road bike?
I have a road bike. It's a Centurion something. It's like a Centurion Ironman. It was definitely stolen when I bought it because the man selling it had a storefront, but there were only 3 bikes in there. And when I asked where he sources his bikes from, he just gave me a dirty look. But I ran the serial number and no one has reported it stolen.
Good man. It's haunted though.
Yes. So I'll be riding my cursed bicycle around Berkeley.
Nice. What about you, Frank?
I bought a book about the history of web design and advertising, but it's like a coffee table pop art book. Like Eminem's website from 2005 is featured like random ass stuff like that. So I'm gonna like treat myself to like an hour of like Zen where I just chill on the patio and read. But it looks cool. Like it goes through the history of Flash design, like the launch of DeviantArt, like just weird like the iPhone, how that innovated. Like it's a real it's really cool. I'm excited to check it out.
Some people are kind of like they have like a style that they put out there, and you just like fucking live yours 24/7. Like you're literally you're like the most 90s fucking dude I've ever met, and you're literally going to read a book about websites from that era.
Oh, I can't wait.
You're a treasure,
so
Frank Howley.
Yeah.
Jesus. That book sounds great. I was a web developer for years. I have a whole shelf of web development books that I have from my previous life. I would send me a link to that book. That sounds sounds really interesting. Holy shit. Yeah. I love it. Gentlemen, great to chat to you as ever. Having a lot of fun. We're going to be back. I'm dropping over a hard drive to Jeremy hopefully today. We're going to get back editing. I don't know when we'll be back in the studio, but happy doing this stuff. And yeah, if you're excited for Arkane video games that you have played and perhaps some that you have not played, then hold on tight, motherfuckers, because this one's gonna really blow your mind. Thank you so much for watching, listening to the podcast, or watching here on YouTube. Hope you have a nice day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.